Hi and welcome. We are Sonica Tinker here, and my name is Christian Peterson. We are the founders of the LoveWorks solution.
Today we're going to be talking about how to know if he or she is the one.
Big question, huh?
The one the mind wants to know, like yesterday.
I know. I still remember that from my single days. I was single many years before I met Sonica, and that question was haunting me, sometimes day and night.
One of the things we notice in people who are in dating, in the dating mode, dating relationships, is that there's this tendency to want to decide whether we're getting married or divorced on the first date. And I will say one of the first things in dealing with this whole conversation about whether or not this is the person I'm going to spend my life with, is you got to make it okay to have the question sit there unanswered for a while.
Because it might take a while.
I know it took us 2 years before, from our initial connection to commitment.
And that's even where the relationship where we definitely, we had chemistry and attraction and interest from the beginning, and it still took more than 2 years actually.
So we always say you got to make it okay to not have the answer to that question. And the other thing we recommend actually is to throw out this whole notion of the one.
I know we know that sounds a bit contrary, but bear with us here.
When you think about trying to find the one out of a billion, however many billions
8 billion
people there are on the planet, that's like a tall order. And it's going to throw anybody into hopelessness and overwhelm. It's not so much about finding the one as it is finding somebody who's a good fit for you. And we would actually declare that there are multiple possibilities out there for you to create a workable, successful relationship with somebody who's a good fit.
Yeah, and something else that's really important that we talk to a lot of our single peeps about is, the thing about attraction and chemistry. Whereas, of course, attraction and chemistry is great and feels hot and wonderful and just so juicy. That's not the only thing. Attraction in and of itself doesn't mean we're going to make great relationship partners. There's a gazillion people you could be attracted to that aren't good matches for you as a relationship partner.
The other thing, too, is that chemistry and attraction changes. It fades over time, right? We all know there's a honeymoon phase, and then as we're in relationship, the chemistry, that spark, tends to fade over time. Plus, as we get older, our bodies change. So you have to have more of a, you could say, like a stable foundation that glues you together. So we would encourage you to explore, not only are you attracted to each other physically, but are you attracted to them emotionally? Are you intellectually stimulated with this person? Do you have a spiritual draw? Is there something you just like this person? I'll never forget Abraham. These law of attraction teachers would say, if you feel like you want to lick their face, that probably says something about how you like them.
Yeah, and then we'll offer some other things that are really good to pay attention to. One is trust. Do you feel you trust this person? And do you observe him or her moving in their environment with their other, the other people that they are in relationship with? Do they move with trust? When he or she says they're going to show up at a certain time or do a certain something, do they actually do it? Both with you and with the other people in their life.
Yeah, if you think about it, when you are forming a long-term relationship with somebody, you're forming a partnership, and that depends on trust. And trust takes time to be able to discern.
Yeah, you cannot know that the first couple of dates, even if it's smoking hot.
Right, it takes recurrence over time for you to be able to know whether or not you can really trust someone. The other thing that has been really important to me when in finding and creating a relationship and deciding to commit to somebody long term is, are you somebody who's committed to growing, to personal development? Are you willing to and able to reflect on yourself, to take responsibility for your part in things, to grow and learn and expand?
Yeah, don't get stuck on if they have gone to as many workshops as you have, or if they master the same nonviolent communication or whatever that you do. It's more the willingness to step into that, the willingness to look inside, the willingness to admit wrongdoing and to learn and grow.
And why that's important to me is I figure if we have that ability, then we probably have the ability together to meet successfully any challenges that show up for us in our life.
Yeah, next thing to pay attention to is, do you feel free to express yourself? Do you feel you can show up as whatever you would call your authentic self? Or do you feel like you're walking on eggshells? Can you talk openly and authentically about money, about work, about sex?
It's really important to be able to be yourself. And, we know at the beginning of a relationship when you love somebody a lot and you don't want to lose them, and there's this hesitancy sometimes to say something that's bothering us because we don't want to risk having the other person go away. And we would say it's so essential at the beginning of a relationship to say those things, because you get to find out if they stay. I mean, if they run from you being yourself, better to have them run fast.
Then it's not the one.
Exactly. Or they're not a good fit. The other thing, which is the next piece that we'll say too, is you want to know whether or not you guys can handle and resolve conflicts together.
Majorly important.
Yeah, can you handle the issues that arise, the differences? Can you work out win-wins? How well are you at negotiating and dealing with conflicts and problems as they arise?
What happens when there's a testy moment? How does he show up? Does he get all pissed off and walk out of there? Or does he actually engage? Does this person seem like someone who will engage even when things get difficult? You definitely want to test that out before you commit and start having kids and buying houses and whatnot.
The other thing too is paying attention to their quirks and issues, and are they issues and quirks that you're willing to work with, you're willing to dance with? I know for myself, there were some that I decided early on that I just didn't want to deal with. I didn't want to deal with somebody who had an active drug and alcohol addiction, for example, or someone who was a chronic liar. I really valued somebody who had the ability to make healthy decisions for themselves, take care of their bodies. And it was also really important for me to have transparency and honesty in relationship. So everybody has issues, quirks. We have issues and quirks. And, they're ones that we're willing to be with and work with and have fun with and grow from.
Yeah. Another really great thing to pay attention to is what are their other relationships like? Is he or she someone who has close, sweet, kind, trusting relationships with their mom, dad, siblings, friends? Or is it somebody who's kind of a loner and doesn't have any friends? Or is it someone who seems to create a lot of conflict? If you notice that he has a lot of conflict with both his brother and his cousin and his dad and his coworker, that might be a good sign for you.
The other piece too is to pay attention to how you feel. Like we kind of said earlier, it's like you just want to know, do I want to see this person again? That really is the only question you have to answer. Do you feel safe? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel trusting? And I know for Christian and I, one of the experiences we had early on was just the sense of feeling like we were home, like all was right in the world. And to pay attention to that. So if you have this sense that something isn't quite right and you're trying to talk yourself out of something or into something, you want to pay attention to that. And those are good things to practice telling the truth about and seeing what moves and changes as you vocalize those differing feelings and thoughts that you're having, and see what moves and changes as you do that.
Yeah, and we've talked to so many singles who come to us and say, I met this guy or I met this woman and they're just so awesome and wonderful, but it's like, but that other person, it doesn't seem like they really want to commit, but they're still convinced that this has got to be the one. And one of the things I always say is one of the hallmarks of the one,
or them being a good fit,
is that they want to be with you. Because if they don't want to be with you and they don't come towards you, then how could they possibly be the one or even a good relationship fit for you?
So the last thing we'll say here is that, again, you got to make it okay, this process of having this question in the space for a while, and not try to answer the question too soon of whether or not this is the person that you want to be with. If I had tried to force that answer sooner than we were ready for it, we would not be together. And we see that a lot in the dating process, where the mind just wants to know, like you just have to say whether you're all in or not, like right now, or I'm out of here. And this process of hooking up with someone and forming a life with somebody, it takes time for us to sort of sync up and line up with our vision and with each other, and to cultivate this life together. And if we try to force that process too soon, we inevitably interfere with this organic relationship building process that can actually, stop really good relationships in their tracks from developing all the way to the relationship of your dreams.
Yeah, that's why the point we made about how does he or she deal with conflict is so important, because a lot of relationships that could have been great, they don't even get to test the first conflict, because it's easy when I'm the one looking for the one and then we have a testy moment or a conflict. It's easy for me to just say, oh, conflict, well, then you must not be the one. And as a matter of fact, I used to do this all the time in my relationships. I just assumed if it got testy or difficult, well, you must not be the right one.
So use your dating experience as an opportunity to really practice being in relationship the way you would like to be in relationship. Be yourself, be honest, talk about everything, express yourself, pay attention to what you're feeling and thinking. Notice if you wanted to see this person again, how it feels, and let relationship develop over time. And we trust us when we say, you will know when you are a yes, without question.
Yes, you will.
And
have fun with your relationship exploration process.